I'm a rapper, I'm not a poet. Poet, I'm not a rapper. Guess it's opposite there, cause you niggas just got it backwards. Got me sick to my stomach. Go up on my lantern. New trios, Frio, the most terrible tandem. Deliver shock value, but no, not Timberlanding. Critical observation alerting you ambulances. Clap on and clap off. Rap on and rap off. Hard times for hard rhymes, that concrete, that asphalt. If I did look twice, I guess that's her asphalt. May I assist you and score, get my pass out. Matter of fact, it's what you need. Need some rest, you just fatigue. See, technically I'm filing Mrs. Wallace, I'm Rashid. Know this beat is a banger, have no reason for anger. If I'm slightly deterred, you know I'm giving the finger. Call my savage like Corey, but not in need of Topanga. Right like 90 degrees, you in the need of an angle.
No play zone. No play zone. They know better. Welcome to the Free Lunch Podcast. This your boy Tight, and I got BG with me. What's going on?
I just got one question. Who in the hell left the gate open? Free Lunch, what's happening there? We in this thing. What's going on, Tight? 2-7, what's happening?
Well, man, what's going on with you?
Man, everything lovely. Hawk outside, man. Hawk done made his way back around. Winter time is setting in, so right now just trying to stay warm around this camp. How things in your neck of the wood?
Cold.
Simple as that.
Simple as that. But let me ask you a question. So I've been, what they call it when you stalking on IG? What they call that?
You got lurking, you got trolling.
I've been trolling. That's the word I was looking for. I've been trolling on IG, and I was on what is it? BG the Kid 27. BG the Kid 27. I seen some collard green. Is that accurate?
They made it. They snuck and got them on me though. I did not give permission for them to come out, but yeah, what you saw is a finished product of the community garden. So I got an opportunity to eat my own greens, the organic kind.
How they taste? How they turn out?
Man, they taste pretty good, man. It tastes like greens you get from the meat and 3.
So we're gonna be dropping this podcast on Thanksgiving. That sounds about accurate, right?
Based off of the schedule, this will be a Thanksgiving. This will be a Thanksgiving episode of the Free Lunch Podcast.
So will I be able to partake of the greens on Thanksgiving?
I got you, man. I got you.
I need you to ship me some.
I got you, man. You ain't the only one. There's a lot of people putting out requests for greens to be delivered to their doorstep. So they say the U.S. Postal Service can get anything you want anywhere you want it to get to. So we're going to try it out.
Man, I'm going to leave my comments to myself on the U.S. Postal Service.
I'm just going by what the people say. The people say that whatever you want to ship, they can get it there.
They can get it there, but I've also, let me be quiet. Let me transition. So should we do any kind of gratitude for today's podcast?
What you mean gratitude? Say thank you in lieu of Thanksgiving.
Yes.
I want to say thank you to my mom and my dad. No, first giving honor to God, who is the head of my life. I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to him for allowing us to come together with this podcast and give the people these discussions on a week out basis. We've been doing this about 20 plus weeks, going strong. So I want to say thank you to that. Then I want to say thank you to my mom and dad for making me. I want to say thank you to my city. I want to say thank you to the bros for emphasizing their friendship is essential. To the Soul One Time for Omega Psi Phi celebrating 103.
Yeah.
Sigma Delta chapter and the spring 2001 line and Notorious line. I love you guys. So that pretty much covered it for me. How about yourself?
Man, I did get the group me text where you got into your feelings for a minute.
I had I love you, man, moment. That was just a reflection, man, of looking at, like, really, I guess, thank you and how fortunate, we are in terms of our process, and then coming into the fraternity and coming to the chapter that we came into, being surrounded by upstanding men, guys that are authentic, that have integrity, that live by those cardinal principles that we talk about and describe, and they live it to the fullest and day in and day out. And how iron sharpens iron. When you're in the presence of people like that, it only makes you better. The way that we treat each other, the way that they treat their families, and the way that they treat their wives is just really having a good influence, having good role models. So I was just had a moment to where I just wanted to tell the bros that I appreciated them and giving them the encouragement to keep doing what they're doing. So yeah, I did get in my feelings a little bit.
Yeah, you was all up in your feelings, but I do my gratitude. I'm actually gonna flip the script on you today. I'm gonna see how fast you can think on your feet. And you don't need
don't put me on no test on live.
Man, this is live recording. We finna go off script, but before we even get off script, let me first give a shout out and just say this. You know what? Before I even get into it, though,
Sure.
I've been practicing my Grammy Award speech for decades. For at least one score in a decade.
One score in a decade.
One score in a decade. Can I say that?
That's 30. Yeah, that's 30.
I know what it is.
I'm just translating. I'm the translator for the evening.
So for this moment right here, at this very moment,
surely,
can I give out my Grammy speech that I've been wanting to.
Indeed, you can give it a run. Give it a run on the podcast. Let's try it out and see how the people take it.
You hear that right
there? Good fool. I got the paper.
I gotta open up my envelope. I didn't expect to be here today.
Really, bruh?
I didn't expect to be here today, but
bruh.
What's that?
Really, bruh?
Can I say my speech, please?
Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
I'm crying right now. I didn't expect to be here today. First, giving honor to God, who is the head of my life, to my parents, Mr. Ronald, Miss Mary, to my older brother, to my sister. I love y'all. Thank y'all for supporting me during every step of the way. To my loved ones, immediate family, extended family, and for everyone that helped me along the way, I haven't forgotten you. This goes out to everyone. I can't say everybody's name, but you know who you are. I'm grateful for you. I am thankful for you. And then I'm going to transition into my prayer that I say on Thanksgiving. Lord, bless this food that we are about to receive. Let me stop. Let me stop.
Man, hell no. You started to sound like Donna Gudo there for a minute. Pimp Squad, baby. P.O.P. I'll be home soon. I'll be home soon, baby. Going down.
But on the serious note, I do want to reiterate what you said. I'm grateful just for my family, just for the support and for the love that we both received from the podcast. just from having the faith to step out on what we believe and really trying to push forward and really just trying to, just be bridge builders and trying to provide our perspective at the same time, push this New South movement. So I'm very thankful for that, just very thankful for where I am. And I don't take that for granted on any day. So love the bros, like you mentioned earlier. Really grateful for everything that I've learned and everything and everyone that's helped me along the way. So on a serious note, just wanted to, just say that.
And all the special people that give us a moment out of their lives to listen to the podcast and critique the podcast and let us know what they think about it. We appreciate you all taking time and caring enough about us and what we're doing to let us know how you feel about it and things that we can do differently to make it even better and reach an even larger audience. So we really do love and appreciate everyone for allowing us to come into their homes and into their cars and workspaces and hear what we have to say.
I appreciate it.
Yep.
So with that said, and with you not even being prepped for what I'm about to do and seeing how fast you can think on your feet, I'm going to change the whole topic of today's show today.
Okay.
And I want to see how fast you can think on your feet, but at the same time, I think it's very accurate and appropriate for kind of your introduction, because your introduction kind of spread a light on something that I wanted to kind of talk about. And before we even jump into the topic, you know what time it is.
Yes, I do. You ready?
Yeah, this is a story of a famous dog. But a dog that chases his tail can be dizzy. These are clapping dogs, rhythmic dogs, harmonic dogs, house dogs, street dogs, dog of the world unite, dancing dogs. Yeah, counting dogs, fucking dogs, dancing dogs. And I think everybody kind of get a sense of where I'm going with this. But really, to bring some perspective around this whole flip that I'm about to do, BG, with today's topic, it kind of is a result of what happened this past Monday. And I'll allow you to kind of get a background as to what 11/17 2014 represented for the audience that may not know. But I was actually able to attend a program on Monday in which the speaker of that program kind of raised some very interesting questions. And I think that based off the questions he raised, I kind of wanted to use this platform, the Free Lunch podcast, to kind of pose a few questions to you, but also to our listeners, to kind of get a sense of what your thoughts were around some of the questions he's posed. I kind of started thinking about us releasing this particular podcast on Thanksgiving to give a different conversation versus the one that you and I had originally talked about. So, no further ado, you can kind of explain what 11/17/2014 represented for those that may not be familiar with that particular date, and then I can pose some questions to you and give you some background on what the speaker spoke about on that particular day.
This is a total flip from what we prepared for, but it's an easy one. So November 17th represents the day of founding for the fraternity that we are proud members of, Omega Psi Phi fraternity, founded November 17, 1911 on the campus of Howard University. And so this past Monday, being in November 17, 2014, represented 103 years of the fraternity's lifespan. It represented a time for reflection on the founders of the fraternity, the principles that those founders were bringing to the organization that they were beginning, the vision that they saw for African American men at the time, and the laying of the framework for many, many men across the country, across the world that live by those same principles, incorporate those principles into their daily lives, incorporate those principles into their families, their workplaces, everywhere that the brethren basically live and do what we do. And so it's that particular day, it's a day where we celebrate, but then it also is a day of reflection in terms of where we are now in our lives and what we do. Are we standing by and living on those cardinal principles that we hold so dear? And it's just that particular day, well beyond any other day, is that day where you really sit back and look at where you are and look at where you're trying to get to, and seeing if what you're doing, if your actions and your steps are in line with what the honorable founders envision for us in 2014 going forward.
And you're exactly right. So I had the privilege of attending the Founders Day ceremony at Howard University, which is considered the mother pearl or the birthplace of Omega Psi Phi. And at that particular Founders Day event and program, he kind of raised the question, which was more or less centered around that of standards. I know a lot of the listeners may not be familiar with members versus men, but essentially what that particular poem kind of talks about is quality over quantity. And he raised the question along the lines of posing the question around standards. The standard that we utilize to select for our membership process. And it kind of had me thinking on a larger scale, more so around in the Black community, around the standards that we currently have as African American men and women, and also around the whether you're in a Greek letter organization or what have you. I kind of did a tour. I had the privilege of living in D.C., so there's a tour known as before there was Howard, before there was Harlem, there was U Street tour. And luckily I had the privilege of actually taking that tour, which U Street, for those of you that are familiar with the DC metro area, U Street is a few blocks from Howard University, which, as I stated, is the birthplace of Omega Psi Phi, many of our Greek letter societies. And so from doing that tour, which I did that tour, I would say probably 9 months ago or so, I learned that a lot of the African American industries, they had the first black bank is on U Street. Langston Hughes, which for those that have visited may have gone to Busboys and Poets, but Langston Hughes is very well known for being a popular personality and popular on U Street during that time. And it kind of started having me to think about how would so many different fraternities and sororities be organized, and at that particular time, what was the purpose and the aim and the mission of those fraternities and sororities. And if you really, BG, go back to that particular time, specifically in DC and U Street, a lot of the emerging African American businesses, a lot of the emerging African American banks were being started at that time. So I wasn't as surprised coming from Alabama as I originally was when I first joined the fraternity. but it kind of gave me perspective on what the founders may have been thinking during that particular time period, because at that particular time, African Americans that lived in D.C. and went to Howard and that lived in that particular area of D.C., they were leaders and they were trendsetters and they were bridge builders. So when you really think about it, and not to really take too much time on the mic, if you really think about it, those organizations, whether it be Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated or any of the other Divine Nine, were established to be pioneers and to be leaders. And I kind of really wanted to get your thoughts on the current state of black fraternities and sororities, but also get your opinion on just African Americans in general and the standards that have been set around the way we operate and we conduct business with each other. And are we really living out the creed that was established by those Divine Nines organizations? I mean, what you think? I didn't mean to take it this route, but that's something that's been on my heart since attending that Founders Day program.
That's quality. That's quality conversation and discussion that needs to be had. You know, that time, early 1900s, was the period of time. You've got the Civil War, the 1860s. You got Reconstruction going on at that time. So that particular generation, to me, that particular generation signified a generation that was seeking more than what slavery had offered them. And they had gotten a taste of what could be. If you put yourselves in certain situations, you could be something. You know, I would say that they had visions of getting closer to what was deemed the American dream. And for white counterparts, the American dream was that if you didn't come from money, you weren't already in a situation that, you know, you would go to school and get a job and go about it that particular way. And so the historically black colleges offered black people an opportunity to get that part of the dream, to go and get an education and to become a professional in the area, whatever you got your degree in, and then go and take that and build your practice, build your career, and then have your family built on top of that. For me, it's just that period of time was just a period to where that inkling of hope showed itself. And people saw that opportunity, and they had somewhat of a roadmap of getting there, and there was just that willingness to go. And, you know, in our situations, we're kind of reflections of what's going on in our community. So if I'm in a situation to where I'm surrounded by two or three of my friends, and my friends, every time I get around them, I'm talking about, or they're talking about, they're going to college, or they're doing this and they're doing that, then there's a great likelihood that I'm going to want to follow in those footsteps. So when the language across the culture is, as a people, we need to get educated. We need to empower ourselves. We need to put ourselves in situations to where we have our own banks and we can account for our own money, because if we don't, then we're still resting on the people that really don't care anything about us. So in order to counter that, we need to put ourselves in a position where we can be self-sufficient. These are the ways that we do this. And everybody, or the majority, I always have to say the majority because everybody wasn't with it. But if the majority of the people that I'm around are talking that language, and that becomes the common language within the culture, then you have more and more people seeking that standard that you're talking about. The standard was to be upstanding, to be respectful, to be knowledgeable, to be educated, to have something that your people could look at you and be proud of. My grandparents couldn't do it, but my grandparents made provisions for me to get to this place. So now I'm going to take it to the next level to make them proud. So I would think that was a standard. And so when you look at that, when you look at, like you say, Washington, D.C., thriving black communities even at that time. And then you go further to maybe the 20s or so, you look at a Harlem to where there was an assembly of black talent, black thought, black artistic expression, intellectuals, and all these things. It was just a time to where black people were really taking pride in doing for self and creating their own lanes and doing the things that they needed to do to push the culture at that moment in time forward. And that's actually a period of time that I really do admire when you look at the dress.
100%.
When you look when you look at the words, when you look at the classics, when you look at how engaged the people were in terms of trying to build networks and hubs to where people who shared a certain perspective, shared a particular thought could come together. They were disseminating information. I was looking at something the other day. W.E.B. Du Bois was putting out a paper, and it was ran on a regular basis called The Crisis.
Crisis, yep.
And in that particular document, it was almost like a magazine, but it had everything. It had what was going on in the schools. It had what was going on in the churches. It had something, it had the poetry. It basically was giving black people something to work from. You get this periodical, you be kind of in tune to what's going on in the culture. And it had people, for the most part, moving in concert. And everybody's objective was pretty much the same. Empowerment, being knowledgeable, protecting yourself against oppression, protecting yourself against mistreatment by other races. And so if they were able to do that in 1900, get those things printed up and disseminated, then it's like there's really no limit to what we can do in 2014 when we have access to all these resources. So that's a very pivotal time, in my opinion, in terms of the culture, the history of the culture, and actually where the culture could be heading.
I agree 100%, and I kind of echo what you just said. And I hate when we do podcasts where we both
agree.
I do. I hate to do podcasts where we both agree, but some kind of struck a nerve with me simply because, two questions that after sitting and listening to that bruh speak so elegantly about, just the membership process and the standard. What really struck with me is two things, and I do want your perspective on this. The first one was on standard, and you kind of mentioned it, but I remember there was a time when people would dress up to go out. You would dress up to take the girl on the date, or you would dress up to go out to eat. That was a big deal. I know coming from the South it was, but now we've gotten so lax to where even when it comes to attire, we don't even want to dress up and be grateful and just set a high standard for those type of things. Or maybe I'm too old school and maybe I'm too traditional, but when you could dress up and go out and take your date, go to the door, knock on the door, and take her out on a date where you dancing and you're not booty grinding. We can do it. And you mentioned us doing a show on just getting back to the fundamentals of dating, and we can do that show. But that's just one of the things that stuck out with me when I was just thinking on the basics and the low level of standards. We've kind of even gotten away, if you call that a standard, we've gotten to lower our standards for that. We did the show on the limbo stick, and a lot of this is really centered around that too. But the second thing I kind of wanted to talk to you about and get your perspective on is just the role of the Greek letter societies, because if you really think about it, and with me having the privilege of living in the DC area and living in the Mecca of where a number of these organizations were founded, and especially specifically the time period that these organizations were founded, they were the pioneers, they were the leaders, they were the trendsetters, they were the trailblazers, they were the ones that were looked upon as being the example. And I kind of wonder, can we say the same for our Greek letter societies today? And am I challenging the Greek letter societies? I am. Specifically Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Because I kind of wonder, have members of any of these organizations lost that, like, before I even say lost, have they even understood the purpose of living out their creed and their aim and their mission? You know, that they even understand that from the beginning. And secondly, if they did understand it, have they reflected upon it, and are they living out that creed? And really, before I even pass the mic back to you, I joked on you at the beginning of the podcast for saying that you were in your feelings, but really, you kind of became an omen. That text or that group me that you sent was kind of an omen of what I had been thinking since attending the Founders Day presentation. So I kind of said a lot just there, but you know, kind of want to sit back and see your thoughts on the standard and also the role that these Greek letter societies are playing in today's society.
Unfortunately, what we see with time is that as time goes forward, things change. A lot of the things that was once tradition or standard changes into another standard or tradition, and we're constantly in that shift. When you talk about institutions, when you talk about groups of people, businesses, over time, the quality just seems to diminish. Some of that is just reflective of the culture, because the younger people in a set culture typically are fighting against that culture. They're rebelling. They're trying to change the status quo and tradition. So by the time they're adults, what used to happen don't happen anymore. So for us, you talking about the dating and all that type of stuff, that standard goes away and turns into something else. And so now we sit in this seat to where we've been through that rebellion phase, and now we're looking at ourselves as moving into that leadership, or more of being that role model and being bridge builders. As a person gets to this stage to where we are, it is our responsibility to still be influential on those that are behind us. When you talk about some of the Greek letter societies and things like that, the ones that may be in position to maintain that standard for a little bit longer, or give the younger ones an option, or show them a better way, are absent, or not in position to do that. So that's one thing that you look at.
Have we become too disconnected from the origin of the beginning, or the origin of the creation of these societies?
Yeah, and I think that might just be a part of just the natural evolution, because like I said, at that period of time, the culture was calling for leaders. The culture was calling for intellectuals. And so now you got these kids that are at this institution. Now they just got to find a group within that institution that speaks the things that they're interested in. They were all there to get something to make them better, and they just divided up into organizations. But now you've got people that are looking at the organizations to mimic what's on the street. You got people that are looking at these organizations as like gangs and using it for those particular means, which is totally different than what it was set out to be.
Exactly. Because think about this. Let me ask you this right here. The founders of Omega Psi, you had 3 undergraduate and a college professor. and an advisor, those undergraduates were 19, 20 years old. Do you think we have the mental capacity and the organization today to develop such an organization for the purpose and the aim that was established by these three undergraduate and advisor?
We've got the ability and the capabilities. You've got the bodies, you got the people, you got the brains, you got the resources. You've got more of those type of things than you had back then. And this is a microcosm of what's going on in the global community. But what's missing is the pressure. And so when I say pressure, at that time, as a black man or as a black woman, you were second class out the rip. You had your life
from the beginning,
from the jump, from the time you touched the earth, your life had no value. You were gonna be called every name under the sun. You were not seen as a human being. That type of environment, you can't go to certain places. You know, just because of the color of your skin. People don't even know you. They don't know your character. They just look at you and they don't want any parts of it. You can't put your money in a bank because the bank might steal your money. You can't learn how to read. You can't go to school. So all these things are not afforded to you. There's pressure. So what that creates is this drive to show people that I'm capable of doing these things and I will do these things and I will be able to live a productive life whether you like it or not. Pressure creates that mind frame. And that perseverance and that vision to get more. But you fast forward now, people can't see the pressure, or they deny the pressure. Play like the pressure is not there. It's not as obvious or blatant as it once was, but the pressure is still there. But people are not responding to the pressure. So you get lax and lukewarm. And instead of focusing on using your institution to push people forward in a positive direction, instead of looking to go to school to get to the next level, all this is now status quo. It don't have the same value. People don't appreciate it as much. And once you stop appreciating it, once you lose pride in what it is, then you start letting in all these other things that taint what you have going on. And instead of taking it to a higher standard, it lowers the standard. So for me, whether we talking about Greek letter organizations, whether we talking about schools, institutions, universities, or whether we just talking about our community as a whole, we've got to realize that those same forces that were against us are still in place. They're still in play. So there should still be a drive to better your position, to give yourself some leverage to operate and not be taken advantage of.
How can you say they still in place when you see more African Americans making in the top 1% or top 5% or in that in the 1%ers? How can you say that?
Well, is that good enough? Should there be more?
Depends on who you at.
Should there be more? But I know where I live. Ain't nobody living like that. What I see more so is people struggling for whatever reason. I see us being taken advantage of in the political realm. I see us being left out and forgotten about. And we don't want anybody to give us anything. But I'm just saying.
But see, to me, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
But see, to me, that's different. Then that's more along the lines of expectations to me. To the question I kind of posed and kind of what I wanted to challenge was more around the role of the Greek letter societies in our community. Because to your point, if you feel like those things that you just mentioned, the purpose of the Greek letter society was to press through those issues and to break through that glass ceiling and to lift as they climb. Mm-hmm. So you may feel that way, but then the question I ask you is, what are the members of the Greek letter societies in your area, the 2-7, Selma, Tuscaloosa, whichever area you're referring to, Birmingham, the state of Alabama, what are the Greek letter societies doing to break through those glass ceilings? Because if you really look at it, those organizations were established to be the bridge builders or to be the pioneers that you are referring to, that we still wrestle with today. See, that's kind of the message I took from attending the Founders Day ceremony at Howard University, was really just questioning the current process for simply the men that we accept into the organization. Because if you're not accepting quality men or quality leaders, then how can you expect those Greek letter societies, specifically Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, to continue to be the bridge builder and to address those concerns that you kind of mentioned a few minutes ago?
Well, I mean, but it goes back to you said it, the quality of the individual that is going into these Greek letter organizations. The quality of the individual is based off of where they come from, what their perspective is, what they feel like they can bring to the organization.
So should we raise the standard? Because that's what was proposed by the speaker on this particular Founders Day. Omega Psi Phi has been in existence for 103 years. And what he suggests is that we raise the standard even more.
Generally, what your output is reflective of whatever you have set your standard to be. So that would be an action to raise the standard, raise the expectation for people that are potential incoming members. That's one way to do it, as well as raising the standard for people that are already members. But it's a tough draw though, because the quality of a college student has changed so much. And you can talk to people that are around college campuses that do intake and recruitment and stuff like that. Like kids themselves are different. They have a different value set and they have different responses to certain things. And so that makes a dilemma in terms of, okay, well, if you do have a process, an intake of members, like what is your selection pool? Makes it hard.
You know, and not to be, I mean, we kind of pretty much approaching the end of the day's podcast, but, you know, I think that, I guess the overall message from my perspective would really be to challenge these Greek letter societies. I try to be diverse in our topics, but today, with it being so close to our Founders Day for the fraternity that you and I both joined, and also with it being so close to Thanksgiving, hopefully members of these different Greek letter societies and the Divine Nine can kind of, during their Thanksgiving break and during their Thanksgiving holiday, kind of talk about some of the issues and topics we talked about during today's podcast and really challenge the leaders of your organizations to pause and consider, you know, not only the standards that are currently being utilized, but challenge the leadership such that they result back to the origin for the initial birth of their organization.
It's a small representation of what we're living in right now. And for me, I just think that there should be a central focus on where we want to be. What is our standard as a people, and then the organizations can put their energy into that endeavor, can get us moving in that direction. For me, it's just representation of the black community. I know that's kind of off topic, but that's where I reside and where I live with most of my conversations. But we as a people have to determine what our standard is going to be. And for the organizations, it's valuing those standards, focusing on the quality of the person versus building numbers, which is something that I can really appreciate from what I've seen from our organization, is really just valuing what you have, not necessarily hunting numbers, but really if you only got 3, make sure it's a quality 3 that's going to represent you well and represent your cause well. So that's really all I got on that particular one.
So I apologize for flipping the script on you, man.
That's all right. It's okay.
I think you did good as far as being able to adjust and being able to kind of think fast on your feet. Because, I kind of, as we were doing the opening and introduction, I didn't know if our original topic would have sat well on a Thanksgiving holiday. What you think?
It wouldn't have. Definitely wouldn't have been one you could sit around the dinner table and that was a good executive decision. It wouldn't have flown. No.
Okay with that?
No, it wouldn't have been all right. So yeah, you did good. You did good by giving us another topic.
I mean, I think you did pretty good though. So anything else you want to say before we end today's topic?
Nah, happy Thanksgiving to everybody listening to this podcast. I pray that you enjoy your time with your family. Enjoy the good times. Eat as much as you can. Hit the gym on Friday.
Do what?
Hit the gym on Friday.
Hit the gym on Friday. Can I get a shout to Vast per Minute Market?
Yeah, that unheart healthy food, but it's good though. But Vassals, one time Vassals, the place to fulfill all your lunchtime needs, everything from fried chicken, collard greens, macaroni and cheese, whatever you want, they got it.
Hilarious. So, how can the people reach out to us, man?
Hit us up. Instagram, Free Lunch Podcast. Twitter, Free Lunch Pod C. Check out the blogs and podcasts, freelunchpodcast.blogspot.com.
Can I get a people a little something different right now?
Hit them up one time.
It's going to be a little different, though.
Get it to them.
Greek letter societies among our group appear to have entered into a period of mad competition for obtaining members. Scarcely a student on the college campus but wears a pledge pin or a fraternity pin. Are the fraternities forgetting their original high standards? Can it be said that every man who enters college is of fraternity material? If in any place Omega has entered this mad race for members, pause and consider. The value of our fraternity is not in numbers, but in men. Real brotherhood. 8 men, thoroughly immersed in the true Omega spirit, are a far greater asset than 80 with lukewarm enthusiasm. Do not do that is best, leave unto the Lord the rest, and I'm out.
Out here, Free Lunch Podcast.
Peace.
Pardon me, I'm speaking it awkwardly. Charles Barkley, barking, they ain't biting. I'm getting that green broccoli. Properly giving props to the problem, fulfill prophecy. It gotta be better than that. It gotta be obsolete. Obviously, niggas rolling the dice, and this ain't Monopoly. My purpose was to do it on purpose. Fucking apology.